Hey all, I'm going to be taking you through a tour of the Studio Skills 3 assignment, and what this is aiming to do is get you to learn how to save things properly in Pro Tools when you're bringing audio in from other sources, like from YouTube and this type of thing. And so I'm going to go through the process of ripping something out of YouTube, bringing it in correctly so that you can move your Pro Tools recordings and work to other computers without having problems. I'm also going to show you how when you get there you can time stretch things and chop things up in cool ways. Okay, so what you're going to need to do is at the end of this, you're going to need to show me your whole Pro Tools file folder with everything in it, so I can guarantee that you'd be able to move things to a studio to show them, for instance. And I'm also going to require that you send me a SoundCloud link to the exported file so that I can verify you did what you're supposed to do. So first, let's go to the Studio Skills 3 assignment and the learning modules here. Open it up by clicking on it. Gives us instructions. First part, we're going to rip the MP3, and it says use this converter here, so I'm going to click on that and open it up in the background. And it's going to have us use this YouTube video. In the future, you'll be able to do whatever you want though. So let's go to that YouTube video. It's a funk loop. I'm going to go ahead and right click and copy this and then paste it into the online converter. Hit start and it's going to go ahead and download it for me. Or actually it's going to convert it rather. Now it's ready to download. I hit this download button. Yours may have pop-ups like this. I have a pop-up blocker stopping that. Here's the MP3 right here. My downloads. I've done this before too, so I have two of them. Just delete that last one. Cool. Now I'm going to go to Pro Tools and call this Studio Skills 3 and give it my name so I know who's made this. You're going to save this into the Tim Pullen student files on the North Station. Okay, when I'm done, got the proper settings, broadcast wave file, 44.1, 24-bit, hit create. Now I have to go to File and Import to bring this in. So I do this, I'm going to go to my downloads, grab this file, hit Convert, and hit Done. It's going to ask me where I want to save it, and I want to save it in the place it's created for me. This is, if you do the import process with file import like we just did, it's going to put it in the right place. It's going to make an audio files folder for you inside the Studio Skills folder that you had just made, your main Pro Tools folder. Hit open. It's going to save it when you do that and convert things. Where do I want to put this? I could put it in a clip list. This is over on the right side here, just a bunch of stuff that you're going to use in your project. But if I hit new track, it automatically creates a new track for me and puts it in there, so it saves some steps. Pretty cool. Location, session start. That's where I want it. I want it right at the beginning, so I hit OK. So now I have the file in there. Let's hear what it sounds like. Let's give it this name here, but let's just say drums. You can use these buttons over here to zoom in, or hit Apple right bracket, it'll do the same thing. If you go down below here, it turns into this double arrow. You can make it larger to see more readily. You can also do that with these buttons down here, pluses and minuses. Cool, so I have that. Let's see what the steps are next. We've imported it, saved it, cool. Now we need to prepare the audio to be edited. This is actually really important, though dry sounding. We want to make sure things are the right tempo so that everything works. So I'm going to go into here, and if you notice, okay, so I think this was slightly different from what I posted. The groove drum says 105 beats per minute. And I typed 100 here, so let's double check that that's right. But let's go to Pro Tools and go to the transport here, declick this conductor track, probably the metronome too, we don't want to hear that, And where it says 120, I'm going to type 105. Now, after we've done that, we want to make the timeline show bars and beats. So let's go over to View and Rulers. First, it's going to set minimal here, so it shows just the least amount of different measurements possible. Then I'm going to go to Main Counter, make sure it's bars and beats. You see that up here, bar 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we need to trim the clip's beginning. Okay, this is super important stuff here. We're going to use this thing called tab to transients. Let's see where that is. I go up to this little button, it probably won't be clicked. Tab to transients. What that means is, if I hit the tab button, it jumps right to the beginning of all the different start places of a new audio piece. I'll hit it again, right? It's going to jump right to the beginning of this drum hit here. Perfect. I don't have to try to click on there or move my mouse around. I just hit tab. It goes right to the beginning of each of these spots. This makes it really great to edit drum hits, spoken word, things like this. You can instantly and accurately jump to precisely where you want. So what does it say here? Enable tab to transients. Hit tab to move there. Once we get there, we're going to break up the audio file right where the cursor is. We're going to delete the beginning section that we don't need. Cool. I want to start it here after it says I hit me right there, basically. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. Hit tab right now. It's going to jump to this place. No. Actually, I want here. Tab. Now I'm going to hit edit. Separate clip at selection. And it's not very big, but we can see there's a line there now. Make sure that we have the 7-in-1 tool selected here. Smart tool. And when we drag our cursor down below, it turns into from the selection tool to the hand tool. Click there and delete. Now we're going to take this and just drag this to the beginning. Now things should be lined up with a beat. Let's see. Perfect. So if you notice there, all these drum hits now line up right with these thin lines here, which show us where the beats are. Great. That means we can edit things precisely. I'm going to hit File, Save, or Apple S. Make sure everything's good with this. What's next? Change the timeline to grid mode. When we're doing editing, it's really important to have things in the right type of modes. So it's currently on slip. Slip means I can click anywhere I want, select anything I want. If I click it in grid though, now look at when I select it, it automatically only selects here 2, 4 to 3, 1. One beat at a time. Here's measure 3. Here's measure 3, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4. Every time I drag, it only selects one musical beat at a time, which is excellent for editing audio things, which most of the time are dealing with beats in music. So we have it in grid mode. We're ready to edit beats. Great. What's next here? Grid. Click on measure 5 and hit edit separate at selection. So we're going to basically chop up the file after measure 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to click there, and I can't click in between. It's going to lock directly to the grid since I'm on grid mode. It's going to lock onto, in this case, the grid value, which is something called a quarter note. Hit edit, separate clip at selection, or Apple E. Let's hit Apple E and try that out. Cool. Now I'm going to click past this, highlights everything else, just hit the delete button. Deletes the rest of that clip, and now we just have this. A 1, 2, 3, 4 bar loop. If I control click the play button too, it turns into loop mode. And makes a perfect loop. Great. We've got a perfect loop. Everything's cool. Now what we're going to do is we're going to see how we can expand and contract or stretch the drums. Pro Tools has a cool thing here. This thing right here, if we hover over it, it's called the trim tool. Allows us to go like this and change the length, trim the length of the audio file. But if we hold on it while we click for a little bit, it gives us a separate menu. Standard, that's what we're using. TCE stands for time compression expansion. And of course we can do this one and two to automatically create loops. Let's do this though, time compression expansion. That's what it's asking for over here. We're going to make the clip half the length by dragging it from the right until it ends at measure 3, which ultimately will make it 2 measures long. So I go to the end and notice it turns into a clock thing now, clock trimmer. And if I drag to 3, process it. Listen what happens now to the drums. Twice the speed. Pretty cool. And I can automatically do that. I can change to whatever size I want just by dragging back and forth with this tool. That allows me to do a lot of things with beat matching and with repurposing stuff. So, got it done. It's half the length. Now I'm going to save my work to North Station. So the first thing I do is just need to create an exported version of this, a bounced version. Going to go File, Bounce to Disk, and I don't need an MP3, just make sure that's stereo interleaved. Cool, there it is. And make sure it's on offline, so it does it as fast as possible. And hit Bounce. Great, got it. Gonna name it last name .studio skills 3. Then you upload this to SoundCloud. So let's do each of those things. Go to the desktop where it's saved. Play it back to see that it works. Nice. Go to SoundCloud. Hit upload. Select our file. Now it's uploaded. Hit save. Here's a link we have. Now I can go ahead and submit that over in Blackboard. I'm gonna hit text submission and just paste my SoundCloud there. Let's double check that it actually works in another browser just to be sure. And it does. Excellent. So now I need to make sure that this whole thing is zipped up and ready to be stored on the North Station. What I'm going to do in step 4 here is I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to compress it. It's a great idea to compress things in general because it makes them easier to send places, upload places without a lot of problems. So I'm going to find my Pro Tools file folder. It should have everything in it. It should have a folder with audio files, bounce files. It should have the Pro Tools file that opens things up. All this has to be here. If it's not here, it won't open up the audio files properly when you click on this Pro Tools file. Let's right click on it and hit compress. This is the file that you need to basically turn into me on the North Station. So save this into a file folder that has your name as the title on the North Station. So I would have a folder called Tim Poland in the North Station, and then inside of that I put this whole Pro Tools folder and zipped up version. So all this is stored in a folder that would be called Tim Poland. Let's just do that. Tim Poland. So here's my file folder that I would have in the North Station. Make sure this is all sitting in there. That way when I go on this station I can look up your name and check to see that you have the Studio Skills folder inside of that. And that is it.